So this Saturday we have a very exciting and intriguing matchup between Josh Taylor and Teofimo Lopez. Here's my prediction for this fight. Now I see this fight being an absolute war, a battle, a fight of the year candidate. There's a very good chance if this fight plays out the way I predicted to, it ends up winning fight of the year or being a very strong candidate for fight of the year. I see the first 2-3 rounds being very interesting. Both fighters filling each other out, both fighters landing nice shots here and there. I think Teofimo will probably start the fight off slightly better than Taylor, landing the better counters, the more flashy work. However, I see Josh Taylor having the better work rate of the two. I see the fight starting to pick up from round 4. Both fighters trading shots, both fighters fighting on the inside. Teofimo Lopez probably having the cleaner, harder shots, but Taylor noticeably outworking Lopez. And I see throughout the fight both fighters getting hurt separately on different occasions, and I see both fighters taking a lot of big shots throughout. However, I see Taylor outlasting Teofimo Lopez from the mid to later rounds, and I see him digging deep, pushing hard, and I'm picking Josh Taylor to win this fight by a 10th round TKO victory. I see him pinning Lopez on the ropes, digging downstairs to the body, throwing uppercuts upstairs, throwing hooks, throwing combinations, really going all out and finally getting Teofimo Lopez out of there. Final prediction, Josh Taylor, 10th round TKO victory. Now, this is not just a good fight in my opinion. I actually consider this a great fight, one of the best fights on the schedule. This fight isn't as good as Crawford Spence and Inui Fulton. However, it's probably only one tier below those fights. It's such a good fight, such an intriguing matchup, and a couple years ago this fight would have been a massive fight, and the winner of this fight probably would have been top 5 pound for pound. However, I still think this is a very good and important fight, and a tough fight to call, but the reason I'm picking Josh Taylor to win this fight, I feel he's obviously the bigger of the two. I think he's the stronger of the two. I feel his headspace is better than Teofimo Lopez's currently, and I have not been too impressed in either fighter as of late. Josh Taylor had a career worst performance against Jack Catterall, and I know he's having a lot of issues making 140, and I've heard some rumors that he hasn't been living the life outside of the ring. However, Teofimo Lopez has not heavily impressed me either. I thought he looked very... Pedro Campa just went life and death, almost beat Brandon Lee, so Pedro Campa is not a bad fighter at all. However, I have not been very impressed in Teofimo Lopez as of late. Obviously, the Cambosos performance he looked horrible in as well, taking his first career defeat. I believe that both fighters have a chip on their shoulder, and because of that, I feel they're both going to come to win. They're both going to give it their all and give very good performances and fight much better in this fight than they did in their last performance. However, I feel Josh Taylor is the better fighter of the two. I feel Josh Taylor is a guy that can compete all the way up at welterweight. So if he's a guy that can compete against guys, maybe not as well against Crawford and Spence, but someone like a Virgil Ortiz or Jaron Ennis, if he's capable of competing with those type of guys, I can't see Teofimo Lopez defeating him. I really can't. I see the fight being very competitive before the stoppage. After 9 rounds, the fight will probably be like 86-85 either way. It'll be a fight that's very close. Some people will be debating who's up on the cards at the time. However, I see Taylor starting to really figure out Lopez as the fight plays on, starting to push him back, get him on the ropes, dig deep, and get the stoppage. If this fight is fought on the inside, it heavily benefits Josh Taylor. I think the only thing Teofimo Lopez could do on the inside is counter Taylor with his uppercut, because aside from that, I feel he doesn't have that many tools on the inside, and Josh Taylor has much more. He's also physically stronger and be able to get him on the ropes and bully him. I feel Teofimo Lopez's best shot is either fighting Taylor on the outside or at mid-range. Even on the outside, I feel Taylor's a better boxer of the two, but Teofimo Lopez is much more dangerous on the outside. So if I'm Taylor, I'm getting within close range, I'm getting in Lopez's grill, I'm going downstairs to the body, I'm using physicality, I'm pushing him back, and I'm eventually getting the stoppage. Now, this fight is in New York, and a lot of people think that's going to heavily benefit Lopez. It's going to help him. He's much more comfortable fighting there. He was born in New York. He's the American fighter. He's not traveling overseas. But I don't think that'll matter too much. If anything, that'll probably help Taylor because he knows he's going to have to get the stoppage. He knows he's going to have to dig deep and push hard. I want to say this right now, though, to make it very clear. If we get the Josh Taylor that fought Jack Catterall fighting Teofimo Lopez, he's 100% going to lose, and he's going to lose convincingly. We need the Josh Taylor that fought Ramirez and Prograis, and even if we don't get a Taylor that's that good, if you get, as long as he's considerably better than the version that fought Jack Catterall, because I do believe Jack Catterall is not that good, and I would pick Teofimo Lopez to knock out Jack Catterall. If we get a version of Taylor that is considerably better than the one that fought Catterall, he should be able to win this fight. There's a chance this fight goes to full 12 and Taylor wins like a 7-5, 8-4 decision by just outworking Teofimo Lopez. My gut is telling me he's going to actually get his first stoppage in a couple of years since he stopped Kong Song and actually get a stoppage victory tonight, this Saturday. I see him getting Teofimo Lopez out of there. I think it's going to be in the later rounds. It's going to be a grueling fight. It's going to be a war. I see both fighters' faces at the end of the fight being noticeably different, with a lot of bruising and cuts, because I do see it being such a good fight. And this fight is a matchup with a lot of natural skill and a lot of natural ability and talent. This is going to be such a high-level chess match. I don't think people really understand how good of a fight this objectively is. It's definitely not getting the credit it should, and I'm very excited for it. This fight's happening one day after my birthday, so it's like boxing's little gift towards me for following the sport. They're actually giving me a good matchup, and this is a make or break for both fighters. Honestly, it's a heavy make or break for both fighters, but I think it's an even bigger make or break for Josh Taylor, as weird as that is, because Teofimo Lopez already has a loss and Taylor doesn't, but for some reason, I believe this is a bigger make or break for Taylor, because Taylor has been stripped of almost all of his titles. He only holds one belt left at 140. He has had no momentum as of late. He's struggling to make weight, and he's the older of the two fighters. So I think this fight's actually more important for Josh Taylor than Teofimo Lopez. Say Teofimo Lopez gives a great account of himself but loses to the #1 guy in the weight class in Josh Taylor. He's still young. He still has opportunities. He still has a lot of time left, and in defeat, he's losing to a guy who's favored to beat him anyways. So I think this fight's actually much more important for Josh Taylor than it is for Teofimo Lopez. A lot of people disagree with that. A lot of people know that Teofimo Lopez has said a lot of things that have put him into hot water, and this is his last fight of Top Rank, and he's going through a lot in his personal life. But I think Teofimo Lopez, win or lose, he'll be okay after this fight. He's such a marketable name. He is, flashy enough and can talk well enough to where he'll be okay to bounce back after this defeat and still get future big fights. If Taylor loses this fight, it may be the end for him. And I know that sounds crazy, but after that Jack Catterall outing, it may very well be the end, because what's next for Josh Taylor if he loses this fight? He moves up to 147, and if he loses to Teofimo Lopez, I cannot see him giving any of the top guys at 147 much issues. But I think he's going to win this fight. He's going to dig deep. He's going to push hard in the later rounds and get Lopez out of there. I want to mention this. I do feel that both fighters actually do have decent chins, especially Taylor. I think Teofimo's chin is a little questionable, actually, if we're being honest. He was dropped in the first fight of his career, actually, all the way back in November of 2016, but that was more of a slip. But if you look at his fight against Kambosos, he got dropped against George, and George is not necessarily a puncher. It was a flash knockdown. He got up right away, but he got dropped against George, and in my opinion, he got dropped twice against Sandor Martin. Only one of them was ruled, but he got dropped against Sandor Martin. Now, Josh Taylor did get dropped against Catterall in the 8th round, but I think that was more of not even an accumulative knockdown, more of just he was so gassed and he was so overwhelmed, he just went down to almost let himself recuperate from what he was going through in that fight. But we've seen Josh Taylor take big shots in all of his fights. We've seen him take big shots from Regis Prograis. He's a tough guy, and if this fight turns into a war, and I expect this fight to turn into a war, I see Josh Taylor coming out on top and getting the late stoppage victory. My final prediction, Josh Taylor, 10th round TKO victory. You guys tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. If you can properly predict this fight down below, I'll pin your comment for this video and give you a personalized shout out in my post-fight review. The only way you can be eligible for a comment shout out is if you give me the exact round you're picking. So if you're picking Teofimo or Taylor, tell me the exact round you're picking. Whoever's the closest will get their comment pinned, and they'll get a personalized shout out from me in my post-fight review. Anyways, that's all I gotta say, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. God bless. I'll see you guys later. Peace.